What is up, guys? Welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding, and this is going to be a short and sweet back, rear delts and bicep workout to show you exactly what I like to do pre-contest. So this is a pre-contest workout, or for example the end of a cutting phase workout instead of an off-season workout. So the volume here is still quite high. So this is about 3 weeks before the show in Poland that I'm going to do, which as of right now is only going to be like 10 days out. So this was recorded a while ago by Pixs Media. You can check them out in the description below. But guys, a back workout, I usually like to start out with a seated row or another rowing movement. And if I don't start with a rowing movement, then it's usually a high row or a high pull down stuff, something like that, but never really a regular lat pull down anymore, because my goal is to create a back that is as thick as possible, and I'm showing you my back shape and update later on in this video. So the very important thing to remember for back is that you have to properly warm it up, because what we're doing here is we're making sure that we are able to handle the heavy weights safely. Because here you can see, I believe I was doing 113 kilos here, so that's quite heavy, especially, you know, depending on the type of seated row that you do, it might feel less or more heavy, but trust me, this one feels very heavy. And what you want to be able to do is stabilize the lower back, but also get that full stretch in the back and also that full squeeze and contraction. Especially the squeeze, where you have to arch your lower back, is very important, because that is what's going to cause the back thickness. You know, if you train for many years and your body is pretty well developed, but you're looking for that extra edge of back thickness, that's where those last few centimeters or inches of contraction are needed for, to create that extra back thickness, you know, along with simple heavy rowing movements. Trust me, guys, if you want a thicker back, it's all about doing the rows properly, full range of motion. So what I'm thinking about right here is I'm pulling backwards with my elbow. So my arms are simply at the mercy of my back. The arms themselves don't have a mind of their own. You are in control of what you're doing. So you're simply using your arms and your elbows as an extension of your back. So the first 2 working sets were in between 8 to 12 reps, and the second working set, the third and final working set, is 15 to 20 reps, and that's what I try to do the entire workout. So the heaviest weight I hit first, and then the lighter weight I hit last, so I can get the heavy stuff out of the way, get warmed up, so that the lighter weight feels even lighter in comparison, which mentally but also physically, which has been proven in literature, makes it easier to do a couple more reps with a lighter weight when you've already experienced a heavy weight before. So give that a shot for sure. And this is the wide grip T-bar row using 2 ATX pieces of equipment. So we have the golden bar right there, a very lucky charm bar for me. Every time I use it, I just feel a little bit stronger. And we're also using the wide grip T-bar row attachment, which to me is very important, because it allows me to allow my arm to go past my body further for an optimal contraction. And remember what I said before, the better the contraction, the better you'll be able to work on that back thickness. So as you can see, my hands are able to pass my body on the sides, and if my hands would be close together, they would simply touch my stomach, which would limit the range of motion. Now this is the third working set, so we just did 2 working sets to failure of around 8 to 10 reps, so those are the heavy sets. And now we're using an intensity technique. So this is a cluster set. So what I'm attempting here is I'm trying to do 4 cluster sets, so 4 sets of 5 reps. And you're using a slightly lighter weight as you used in the first 2 working sets, so that you're able to perfectly perform the movement. So whenever you're doing a working set and trying to beat your previous record, there might be just a little bit of momentum involved, but the thing about using an intensity technique like this is that you can perfect your range of motion, perfect the contraction especially, and just perfect the performance of the movement, the execution, so that you will actually hit failure on perfect form, so the risk of injury is going to be very, very low. And the third exercise, another rowing movement, the Incline Dumbbell Row. This is one I really recommend you guys to do, even if you have the most basic equipment at home or at your gym and all the machines are used. You can still use an incline bench and do a very good row for the rhomboids, the upper traps, basically the upper trap thickness, which you can clearly see now that I'm wearing this Stay Golden stringer. Or at least it's a vintage genetic stringer, a new one available on vintagegenetics.com. Thank you very much for the incredible support. But what I'm trying to say is you can actually see the contraction of the upper back, and that is what you want to focus on. So once again, you use the elbows to let the shoulder blades come together at the top. You have to be able to retract the shoulder blades in order to complete this movement. The moment that you can't do that anymore, that's the end of the movement. Then it's simply too heavy. You simply don't have the control over that weight, and you have to lower that weight. And I want to do at least 10 reps, 8 to 10 reps with a weight like this. If you're doing it too heavy, you simply won't have the control. You're using too much explosiveness to try to get the weight up. That is not what we're doing here. So this is the third working set right here. And in this third working set, it's actually going to be a rest pause set. So as you see, I'm going to failure with these dumbbells. And by the way, all of these sets are the same weight, so they're pretty much straight sets of the same weight. But then I'm using a rest pause technique. So we just did a cluster set before, and now we're using a rest pause technique. So I'm breathing in and out around 5 to 10 times until I feel like I can do a couple more reps again, then hit failure once, and then do the exact same thing and hit failure for a third time. So doing a rest pause set, I do think you have to hit failure at least 3 times for it to be a very useful intensity technique that brings you beyond the reps you would have normally done. That is the purpose of an intensity technique. So if it does the exact same to you as a straight set, I would stick to the straight sets. But if it brings you a couple more reps beyond what you could normally do, definitely do those intensity techniques and practice them and be better at them. More videos about this coming soon, where I isolate those intensity techniques and show you exactly, how I like to do them personally, because everybody has their own opinion, of course. And here you can see the final compound back movement. So this is a small grip pull down, or a V-bar pull down, whatever you want to call it. But I really like this because of the stretch at the top. It stretches out the back very nicely because it's now all pumped up, as you can see. And right here I'm a combination of a little bit flat if I didn't have a pump, and a little bit watery. This was 3 weeks out from the show. So, but getting a pump shows you what's underneath, and that is the most important thing. That's why I always like to see my physique with a pump, because it allows you to see what you could potentially look like and what's underneath. So everybody who is going crazy being too flat and going low carb and trying to do a refeed because they look too flat, if you can still get a very nice pump, then you don't need a refeed yet, in my opinion, unless your weight and performance overall change dramatically. But another video will explain all of that in the future. And then the last back movement, one of my favorites to finish off the back, the cable pullover. Now the cable pullover you can do in 2 varieties. You have this one with a straight bar, which to me helps with the stretch just a bit more if you compare it to using a rope. So when I make workout plans for people and I put, for example, a double pullover in there or a cable pullover, people always ask, well, what's the difference, and can I use it for back or for chest? And actually, this cable pullover can be used for both the back and the chest, and you have also different varieties, as I just said, to emphasize different parts of the back or emphasize the back or chest more easily, because it really depends your anatomy which version you like most. But as I said, I like this bar more for the stretch, because when I go up, the positioning of my hands allows me to stretch out those lats even more, all the way to the lower lats where the contraction happens. Now with the rope, your full range of motion is a bit more complete, so your range of motion goes a bit deeper, allowing for a bit better contraction, but it really depends on how you feel on that day. If you got a very good pump, I would advise to do the cable pullover with a straight bar. If you don't have a great pump yet and you want to work on the lower lats, do the rope cable pullover. And this is the drop set, so first doing 2 working sets, and then the last set is the drop set until failure, to make sure that I finish off the back completely. And then an exercise I haven't shown on the channel for quite a while, the reverse dumbbell flies. Now, one of my philosophies as a bodybuilder is to not overtrain a muscle that is already a strong point, especially when it hides one of your, especially when it makes a weak point a bit weaker. So, for example, in my physique, if I train the rear delts too much, then in my side chest, the rear delt will pop out, but the weaker part of my arm, the triceps, will then be, visually smaller, because the rear delt looks bigger in comparison. So you always want to strike a balance here, but I'm a unique case in this because most people have underdeveloped rear delts. So I really recommend doing at least 2 rear delt exercises for each time that you work the back. And if you train the shoulder separately, then also do 2 separate rear delt movements there, preferably at the start of the workout if that is the weakest part of your shoulders. But what I'm doing here is a very high volume, at least 20 reps per set, so I'm just doing 2 working sets here of 20 reps, going to failure, filling up that small muscle with blood, because if you go too heavy, the traps and even the biceps will be involved, and it's called a reverse dumbbell fly. So it's an isolation movement, so you want to isolate the rear delts and not use any other muscles. So using a lightweight with more reps, higher volume, will make those muscles grow and make you more aware of the mind-muscle connection there. And this is the bicep. So we first did the back, then the rear delts, and then the bicep. So we're using all of those muscle groups whenever we're training the back. So my opinion is you might as well finish them off in the same workout anyway. I know some people like to work only the back or only the arms, but I've been training pretty much like this for, 14 years, and it's been working for me really well. And only when I have a weak point, I simply emphasize that by doing a bit more volume or a bit more working sets, or making sure that I get stronger on a particular movement that I feel very well in the muscle. But anyway, this is going to be a very simple bicep exercise catalog in this workout, because first we're doing this one, the wider grip or the medium grip cable curl with a bar. So it feels really great, and as you can see, my upper body is leaning forward just a little bit. And guys, trust me, try this out. Instead of arching your back and trying to curl the weight up like that, making it easier, you're actually making it harder by leaning forward a little bit, because then the tension at the peak contraction is higher. And what we want as bodybuilders, we want the maximum contraction on the bicep, on any muscle we're training. So no cheating allowed. And what you also don't want to do is, if you have sensitive biceps or bicep tendons, is go all the way down when you use a heavy weight. On some exercises that is possible, but on most you have to look out for this, because then a bicep tear or a bicep injury might be lurking around the corner. So I'm only doing 2 bicep movements here, 2 working sets each. The first one was a medium or a wide grip, and this one is a narrow grip. So if it's busy in your gym, for example, and you still want to work both parts of the biceps by emphasizing the inner and outer head a little bit. So with this one you emphasize the outer head more compared to the inner head, creating a bicep peak. You might simply want to change the grip width on the same exact movement. You can do this with barbells or a bar attached to a cable like this and still get a very complete bicep workout in. Anyway guys, thank you a whole lot for watching. A lot more content is coming, and don't forget to stay golden.